On the Radio Wammo breakfast, time to talk science with our new scientist correspondent Janine Young joining us in Melbourne City today. Janine, good morning to you.
Good morning, Wammo. How are you going?
Very well, thanks. First up today, we've got two stories about smells, kind of, body stuff anyway. First up, we're talking about perfume and the fact that perhaps perfumeries, I think that's how you call them, they should be looking at the human body for tips on what the next hot scent might be.
Yes, forget Britney Spears and the latest celebrity that is attempting to sell us stuff.
Yeah.
Back in the Middle Ages and for centuries, body odour has been a really, really important part of how people have been attracted to one another. It was very common practice, apparently, for maidens in Elizabethan England to chop up an apple, stick it in their armpits, leave it there for a little while, and then hand it to a suitor as a memento.
No way.
So, show your loved one how you feel today. Chop up an apple. But there's a lot to be said for that because body odour is a really important part of how we work out what people are like, whether we're attracted to them or not. It's one of those things, it's not just the fact that, oh my God, you smell, I'm not going near you. It's all a bit more subtle than that because we can actually smell things about each other that we often don't realise unless we're asked. People's age, their sex, their diet, aspects of their health, even under the right conditions, whether or not they're, say, neurotic, extroverted, whether or not a man is dominant. Now, that's a really interesting one because dominance is often an evolutionary thing, at least, where he's potentially likely to be able to provide better for his family than a man who isn't. He may have more resources and the like. So a woman being able to smell that out is actually really important, potentially in evolutionary terms. But what's also interesting is that men, they've done experiments on this, tend to prefer the scent of women when they don't have deodorants and perfumes and the like, when the woman is ovulating. So when she's at her most fertile, and likes it least when she's menstruating, so when she's least fertile. And it's a very subtle thing. We're not aware of it. We think that we don't do any of that sort of stuff, but we actually do. And so, of course, perfumers are going to be really interested in how this works because, as you say, that they want the next hot scent. So it could be that trying to work out what this dominance thing is and what it is about women that smell good when they're ovulating can be really important for a scent. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. It's never that simple because not all women fall for the dominance trick, if you like. To some of them, a dominant male smells terrible and others can't smell that at all. So you're not always going to make that work. Still, it's an interesting idea. The really interesting one that we do know about, though, and have done for quite some time, is something called the major histocompatibility complex. That's an important part of the immune system. It's able to work out whether or not something that the immune system comes into contact with is friend or foe. And we know that people prefer the scent of others who have a different genotype to their own. Again, this is likely to be an evolutionary thing. And if someone has a different MHC to you, then your children are likely to be in a better position to fight off diseases because they have, if you like, hybrid vigour. They're not going to be so inbred. And so looking at MHC is one of those things that, again, perfumers are looking at, and they have got a couple of patents out on a couple of the peptide parts of the protein. It's not important exactly what they are, but they do have a couple of patents, so they're clearly thinking that this is an important aspect of how this works. But again, it's personal. Not everybody is going to like the same sorts of things. So one perfume might make you smell fantastic to a bunch of people and really rather awful to others.
Yeah.
So the idea of a perfume that's going to bring you your ideal partner, that's great, but unfortunately you're going to smell terrible to everybody else. I'm not sure that's going to be marketed that well, are you?
No. So the next big hot perfume, Sweaty Armpit by Calvin Klein, perhaps, or something on those lines. Moving on to a story that still deals with odour in some respects. There's now some thought that dinosaurs altered the climate through their flatulence.
Yes, this is an interesting one. The Mesozoic era was between around 250 million to 65-ish million years ago. It's a long time. So it covers the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous, for those who are interested. During that period, there were very large dinosaurs called sauropods. Diplodocus might be the one that most people know. Researchers from a university in Liverpool in the UK think that because they were herbivores, they would have had to have had certain gut bacteria, and they likely would have been very similar to modern plant eaters that, like cows, produce rather a lot of methane. And of course, being a plant eater, there's only so much you can get out of your food, and you fart it out the other end. Let's not be too delicate about this. They fart.
A farting dinosaur.
That's a big contribution to greenhouse gases, I've got to say. It's a big problem.
Well, a farting dinosaur can't have been a pleasant thing.
Well, some of these dinosaurs were up to 100 ton.
Yeah.
They were massive, some of these things. The largest elephants are 10, so you've got a scale difference of at least 10. Huge, big difference. But they think that based on modern plant eaters, they could have been pumping out 520 million tonnes of methane, every year, and they think it may have contributed a degree to the warming of the planet. And we know during the Mesozoic that it was actually warmer than in other periods. Some others are saying, well, no, it was warmer when there were other dinosaurs around. But I think the bottom line is that farting dinosaurs did in fact contribute to climate change, and it did warm the planet.
But it was a very natural thing, wasn't it? It wasn't
better out than in.
Yeah. But it was a very natural process, you know. It wasn't a man-made, human-manufactured thing. We weren't around.
We weren't around, and that is the thing, that there were no humans when there were dinosaurs.
Indeed. Well, interesting stuff. Thank you very much, Janine.
See you next week.
Janine Young is that New Scientist, where you'll find those stories.